Today is September 7th, 2025. As the world turns its attention to the shifting sands of global politics, a crucial question is emerging. Is India rethinking its friendship with the United States? For the past 2 decades, the United States and India, often celebrated as the world's largest democracies, have appeared to be on a path toward an ever-deepening partnership. Their relationship has been marked by growing economic ties, joint military exercises, and shared concerns about regional security, especially in the Indo-Pacific. Many believed this alliance would only strengthen with time, serving as a cornerstone for stability in Asia. But now, beneath the surface, whispers of a significant shift are beginning to circulate among diplomats and analysts alike. These aren't just idle rumors. They reflect real anxieties about the future direction of this crucial partnership. Recent reports suggest that India is actively reconsidering its alignment with the United States. If true, this could have profound consequences, not just for the 2 countries involved, but for the entire global order. The possibility of India stepping back from its American partnership could reshape the balance of power in ways few had anticipated. This isn't just a minor policy disagreement or a temporary diplomatic spat. Instead, it's being described as a potential breakup, one that could fundamentally challenge America's long-term strategy in the Indo-Pacific, where India has been seen as a vital counterweight to China's growing influence. The story took a dramatic turn with leaks about a secret meeting. But this wasn't a meeting with American officials. Instead, Indian leaders were reportedly in deep discussions with their counterparts from Russia and China, 2 of America's biggest strategic rivals. This development raises a critical question. Why would India, a founding member of the Quad, a group designed to counterbalance China, choose to engage so closely with the very nations the Quad was meant to contain? This wasn't just routine diplomatic engagement. According to insiders, it was a serious, high-level discussion about the future of Asia. Some even suggest it could be the first step toward forming a new bloc, one that might directly challenge US dominance in the region and beyond. For American officials, these developments are deeply worrying. The prospect of losing India as a strategic partner could undermine years of careful planning and investment in the region. The entire US strategy of building a strong partnership with India as a bulwark against China's ambitions now appears to be at risk. If India shifts its stance, the delicate balance of power in Asia could be thrown into disarray. These whispers of an uncoupling are not just regional news. They are being watched closely by governments and analysts around the world, as they could signal the beginning of a major global power shift, one that could redefine alliances and rivalries for years to come. As the world watches, the question remains: is this just a temporary disagreement, or are we witnessing the dawn of a new era in international relations? One where old alliances are tested and new ones are forged in the crucible of global change. The Shanghai meeting brought simmering tensions into the open. It was a quiet gathering of leaders from India, Russia, and China. The secrecy suggested sensitive topics were discussed, involving core national interests. The agenda was ambitious: a new framework for Asian security and economic cooperation, challenging the US-led system. For India, this was a dramatic departure from its recent closeness to Washington. The Shanghai summit represents a potential new power axis, overcoming old animosities. For Russia and China, bringing India into their orbit is a strategic prize, shattering the American-led coalition. For India, it's a high-stakes gamble for strategic autonomy, turning desire into reality. Why is India reconsidering its US relationship? The answer lies in a complex web of economic, political, and strategic disappointments that have accumulated over the years, leading to a sense of growing disillusionment in New Delhi. Frustrations have been building for years, simmering beneath the surface as India has watched its interests repeatedly sidelined or misunderstood by Washington. US trade policy, with tariffs on Indian goods, has hit hard. These tariffs have not only hurt Indian exporters, but have also sent a message that the US prioritizes its own economic interests, often at India's expense. India feels treated as an adversary, not a partner. Despite being the world's largest democracy and a key player in Asia, India often finds itself on the receiving end of policies that seem dismissive or even hostile. Beyond tariffs, there's a deeper issue of perceived American unreliability, highlighted by the chaotic Afghanistan withdrawal. India, which had invested heavily in Afghanistan's stability, was left scrambling as the US exited abruptly, raising doubts about Washington's long-term commitments. This has led to questioning American commitments. Indian officials now wonder if the US would truly stand by them in times of crisis, or if it might once again prioritize its own interests and leave partners to fend for themselves. Can the US be counted on in a crisis? This question looms large as India faces regional security challenges and seeks reliable allies. Furthermore, India resents US pressure over its relationship with Russia, seeing it as an infringement on sovereignty. India values its strategic autonomy and refuses to be dictated to regarding its defense partnerships. The US threatens sanctions for India's Russian military purchases, which India views as bullying. Such threats only deepen mistrust and reinforce the perception that Washington does not respect India's independent choices. There's a growing feeling that the US doesn't treat India as an equal, causing deep resentment. Many in India believe that true partnership requires mutual respect and understanding, not pressure or condescension. Indian leaders believe in their country's unique interests and vision, no longer willing to follow Washington's lead. As India rises on the world stage, it seeks relationships based on equality, trust, and shared goals, not old hierarchies or one-sided expectations. In response to US frustrations, India is deepening ties with Russia and China. With Russia, it's about strengthening a historic friendship with China, managing rivalry, and finding cooperation. This pragmatic pivot aims for greater autonomy on the world stage. India is revitalizing its relationship with Russia, expanding defense and energy cooperation. Talks of joint development of next-gen weapons and energy investments are underway. With China, despite border disputes, shared interests in reducing US influence are prioritized. China offers India de-escalation on the border and economic opportunities, tempting offers for peace and growth. If India shifts its strategic alignment, military cooperation with the US would face severe consequences. One dramatic step is restricting US naval access to Indian ports, a logistical nightmare for the Pentagon. This move would change the military balance, reducing US operational range and increasing vulnerability. Another action is terminating joint military exercises like the Malabar Naval Exercise, a Quad showpiece. If India pulls out, it would collapse, signaling unwillingness to target China. Ending cooperation would halt intelligence sharing and joint training, severing deep military links. It would demonstrate India's seriousness about forging its own path, dismantling a once promising security relationship. As India considers restricting US access, it's discussing granting preferential access to Russian and Chinese navies. This would reverse current posture, welcoming Russian and Chinese warships instead. Granting Russian Navy access revives Cold War patterns, boosting Moscow's influence in the Indian Ocean. For India, it's rewarding a loyal partner and solidifying defense ties. Extending access to the Chinese Navy would signal a major strategic understanding. For China, it solves the Malacca dilemma, allowing freer operations in the Indian Ocean. This policy shift highlights New Delhi's active building of new partnerships with America's competitors. India's potential foreign policy shift is fueled by criticism of American double standards. Indian politicians condemn US hypocrisy, criticizing India while overlooking allies' behavior. A ruling party member stated, "The US wants friendship on its terms, not as equals." This sentiment is echoed across the political spectrum, creating a rare consensus. Public sentiment mirrors this frustration, with social media filled with anger. Hashtags like #IndiaFirst trend, contrasting US unreliability with Russia's steadfast support. This digital groundswell creates a political climate favoring a tougher stance against the US. In the corridors of power, Washington is scrambling to salvage its increasingly fragile relationship with India, fully aware of just how serious and far-reaching the current diplomatic crisis could become. The stakes are high, and the sense of urgency is palpable as American officials realize that their traditional approach may no longer be enough. High-level officials are making a flurry of urgent phone calls, working around the clock to contain the fallout. Behind closed doors, there's even talk of a possible presidential visit to New Delhi, a move that signals just how desperate Washington is to mend fences and restore trust. The US is offering reassurances, floating the idea of rolling back tariffs and proposing new, more favorable trade deals. These gestures are meant to show goodwill and a willingness to compromise, hoping to win back India's confidence. American officials are also softening their language on India's defense purchases from Russia, hinting at possible flexibility and compromise. Yet, beneath these overtures, the reality is clear. The trust that once existed has been badly damaged. Indian officials, however, remain deeply skeptical. To them, these sudden moves look less like a genuine policy shift and more like a panicked reaction to losing a key partner. As one Indian diplomat pointedly asked, "Where was this friendship when we faced tariffs and sanctions?" The question lingers, highlighting the deep-seated mistrust that now colors the relationship. This growing skepticism exposes a critical weakness in America's Asia strategy: a persistent underestimation of other countries' desire for true strategic autonomy and respect on the world stage. If India were to step back as a partner, it would force Washington to fundamentally rethink its approach, not just to India, but to the entire Indo-Pacific region. The impact would ripple through the Quad and could reshape the global order for years to come.